Page 64, meet me tonight in Dreamland. I want to point out a few things and make a few suggestions here for you. As always, you're welcome to play it exactly as they show you and disregard whatever I have to say, but I'm still going to make some suggestions because that's what I do, don't you know? When you're looking at a piece, whatever the piece is, especially if you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend that you play the melody by itself so you can get an idea of what it sounds like. Just the melody, all right? And this one. You can tell it's like a waltz. It's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You get an idea what it sounds. It kind of sets the mood of the piece. And then once you have an idea, then you're in a better position to figure out how to interpret the thing, right? However, of course, before you start interpreting the thing, you got to learn it. I like to feel the melody as best I can. And to do that, I try and avoid using the same finger on 2 consecutive notes if I can for the melody. Can't always do it, but I try to. Look at the first line. It's just at the beginning. It's 1, 2, 3. And already I have to use the same finger on the next note. I have to slide down. Okay, but other than that I can feel it. Well, in the second line it starts out and they want me to use the same finger again. I have problems with that, so I would prefer to use a 4 on that C. If I can. The trick is, can I? When I add the other notes, can I still do the 4? So it's here. And I see that, yes, I can. I got to use the thumb on all those notes. That's harmony. That's not as important. It's the melody I'm talking about. So it's a bit of a stretch between here and here, but I can do it. You know, the hand's big enough. The pedal is down on this. It'll help you out a little bit, but as you're working this out, leave the pedal out of the picture. Work it out with just your fingers. Okay. Next line, the last 2 measures, you're here. I would recommend a 1, 4 on the last measure, the 3rd line, just so I can feel the melody, right? And then the last line, it's here. There's other fingers you can use, but this is fine, use it. It's the melody we're after. Now on the 3rd measure, I do have a tendency to do a 2, 5 on that dotted half note. I will mention briefly, since I'm here, in the last measure of page 64, those right hand notes, they have them slurred, and then your phrase begins on the next measure. When they have lead-in notes like this to what's coming, I tend to connect the lead-in notes to what's coming. Because to me, it's like I'm going to lead into it, and then what? And then I start. I want to connect it all so it flows. It's like the phrase starts in the last measure of 64 instead of the first measure on 65. So I just connect it all. Okay. On page 65, 3rd line down. Now you're coming off of here. You're coming off of a 1, 3. I recommend for the 3rd line, you start with a 2, 4. And then here is, next measure is a 1, 5. Then a 1, 4. And then a 1, 3. And then I do a 2, 4, 5. Because my hand is here and I can go from here to here fairly easily, actually. And then the last note, and that is a B natural there. I'm going to hold it 2 counts instead of 1. Then we have the susura, those railroad tracks. So I'm going to pause for 1 beat. I'm just going to stop, silence for 1 beat, and then we continue. Then the fermata at the end, I'm going to hold that for 6 counts. And that first note in that arpeggiated chord, I'm going to play with the left hand, like so, hold it for 6 counts. Left hand. we got some trickiness going on the left hand, so let's see if I can help a little or hurt a little or whatever I do. It starts out okay at the beginning of page 64, but now look at what's coming. You have these 3 notes, and in the 3rd measure they want a little finger on that. It sounds to me like in the left hand it's a lead in. We're going up to here, go up to here. And yet the way that's fingering, you go up to here. You know, it's like, what? It's rather awkward. So I'm going to suggest another rather awkward way, but it connects the notes. And that is a 5, 1, contract your hand, put the 1 on it, and then a 4, and now a 3, and then a 2 on the chords. And then on the next measure you can do the 5, 3, 1. All I'm trying to do is connect all that together. So it's like so. Takes a little practice, but if you can get these tricky little things, they come in handy on other things, really. So I wouldn't shy away from it. Well, that's weird, I ain't doing that. Oh, come on, be weird for a moment. It's okay. You get this passage elsewhere and I'd finger it the same way. 3rd line down, you can see in the 1st measure where the thumb is playing 2 notes. That's fine. Now, in the last measure, it's page 64 in the left hand, you have these notes. They seem harmless enough until you see what's coming. You have this. How are you going to go from here to here? Again, so I would change this fingering to match the other fingering I just told you about. So it's a 5, 1, 4, 3. Okay, top of page 65, 2nd measure, same fingering. 5, 1, 4. So here you're getting it back to back. At the end, bottom of page 65, the last couple measures, I would put a 4 on the D, because that's the fingering for that chord. So that's the fingering I use. Now for the pedal. We're not pedaling all of it because it would make it really, really muddy. Alright? You're not even pedaling anything until the 3rd line. So you're here at the beginning. Now it's a legato pedal throughout, but I like to have a break between the phrases. Now the left hand is legato as best you can, but I'm going to lift the pedal up with the right hand so I get a break between the phrases wherever they are. Alright, 2nd line. Now I'm going to pedal it again on the 2nd measure. I'm going to lift it up and put it back down. I'm not going to hold it down for a full 2 measures. Frankly, I think that's an error. I think they meant to pedal there, but it's here. And again, the last measure of the 2nd line, I'm going to lift the pedal on the 2nd beat because I don't want to smear this. I mean, come on, it's way out of context. So just lift the pedal up as I play the 2nd beat. Keep the right hand down. So the last 2 measures of the 2nd line. Okay, and then go on. It's just legato pedal. And then at the end, the last line there, the 1st measure is not, because that would blur it all up. And the last measure on page 64, they're showing individual pedals on each beat. I disagree. All right? There are some pieces in some situations where you will do that, not here. I recommend you lift the pedal on that last measure. Don't pedal that last measure at all. All right? It's here. So you're going to lift the pedal up and not put it down again until the 3rd measure of page 65. On the 2nd line on page 65, again, I think that's an error. I think they need to lift the pedal up and put it down again on the 2nd beat. We call it change pedal. You're changing the pedal. You lift it up and put it down, all right? So do that between each measure on the 2nd line. All 4 measures do. And you're fine. And then on the third line down, pedal it just the way they've got it. And again, don't worry about the slurs. I disagree with their slurs here. I think it should all be connected. So again, the third line. Slow down. Okay. The pedal and the hands come up at the same time when you're done with the hold. And then we pause for a moment and then we continue. On page 65, third line down, last measure. I am going to do that arpeggiated chord. I'm going to play the F with the G in the left hand, so it starts on the B. And I'm going to do it fairly quickly because I need it all done before the second beat. Before I play the second beat in the left hand, I want that out of the way. Okay, and then go on. 3/4 time, I'll give us 3 count. Let's try this together slowly. Hands here. My foot's on the pedal. Here we go. 1, ready, go.